guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, my name's Christina Kent and I'm an oil painter based out of San Francisco. It's been raining recently in the city, so in this video we're going to paint some big billowy clouds. Let's do it. I love painting clouds, and especially painting clouds that are lit by the pink-purple light right at sunset, right around dusk. I just think they're so beautiful, and I love how their abstract shapes really allow for a lot of freedom and expression in painting. I am not an abstract painter, very far from it. My work is pretty strongly centered in representation, but I think maybe painting clouds is the closest that I get to abstract painting. And I think they also pose a really interesting challenge for painting because they are very open to interpretation, and so it really does become just about the contrast between light and dark and the composition of shapes and colors. And I think that's the interesting challenge about painting clouds, because they're obviously so beautiful when you see them in person, but to make a beautiful painting of a cloud, I think it's important to think about what is the design of the painting and how does the contrast between light and dark lead the viewer's eye around the painting, and how do the colors come together to create a certain feeling. So in preparation for this painting, I was really thinking about how the painting would be designed. I took many reference photos of the clouds over San Francisco right after the recent rain, and I tried to crop the photos in a way that would create some interesting patterns and interesting shapes for the painting. And so here I've laid in a lot of the darker colors, and my idea, as I usually do, is to go from dark to light, so putting the darker colors in first and then building up the lighter colors. And because it was at sunset, the darks were much cooler than the lights, so for the darker colors and for the clouds that are further in the distance, because there were many layers of clouds in this image, it wasn't just one cloud, but actually there was the cloud that was in the foreground, and then there were clouds further in the background, and I really wanted to convey that. So for the layer of clouds in the background, I made them much cooler and a little bit less saturated, and then as I moved to the cloud in the foreground, I'm shifting the colors more towards purple. I'm making them more saturated and gradually making them warmer and warmer. The sky was also very tricky. Sometimes, I think this is one of my favorite things about painting, is that sometimes you'll look at something and you think you know the color that something is, but then when you actually try to paint it, you realize you really don't know what color something is. And that was definitely true for the sky here. Usually when I'm painting the sky, most of the time I'm painting during the day, so it's blue, and so I'm a lot less used to painting the sky in different lighting conditions, like around sunset. In this situation, the sky was more of a light, warm gray that was very hard to place on the color wheel. And so what I did to figure out the color of the sky is I tried to use the other colors that I was more certain about as benchmarks. What you can do is you can look at the colors that you know. For example, I knew that the clouds in the background were this gray-blue color and that the sky appeared warmer than those clouds. So I wanted to make sure that the sky was a warm gray. But then I noticed that the sky at the top of the clouds in the foreground was a slightly greener shade than the sky that was further in the background. And so I adjusted the mixture of paint to be a little bit more green for that part of the sky. And I think that worked well because it also plays off a contrast with the pink clouds. Then as I was going in and laying in the highlights on the tops of the clouds, as I'm doing here, I also had to be really careful with the colors. I wanted the highlights of these parts of the clouds to read a lot lighter than the other parts of the clouds, but at the same time, I wanted them to maintain a high chroma, a high amount of saturation. And I'd mixed kind of this pinkish orange color for the midtones of the clouds. And so to maintain the saturation, instead of adding white to that mixture, I added yellow so that it would stay really saturated and really bright, but still be lighter in value. Once I'd blocked in the colors, then it all became about refinement. And here I really wanted to convey the wispy feelings of the clouds, the softness of the clouds. So I spent a lot of time working on refining the edges to give the clouds that effect. And as I blurred the edges in some areas, lending this painting a bit more softness, I also noticed areas where I could enhance the contrast. And one thing that I really liked about this composition is that you have the sky both framing the cloud from above, but also peeking through the clouds further in the distance. I really liked the contrast of the orangish gray sky with those clouds in the distance, and so I wanted to add some more marks to kind of highlight that and also highlight the interesting shapes that the cloud was creating in the lower part of the image. Especially since most of the image is this very large, one sort of solid shape, I really liked having these smaller shapes in the distance that help add some variety. Overall, I really enjoyed doing this painting. I love clouds, and especially big clouds like this have a really special spot in my heart because I used to live in Texas, and although it's flat, unlike California, it does have some of the most amazing clouds, and we would get huge thunderstorms when I was a kid, so for me, painting these big storm clouds is always a joyful experience. And we don't get these clouds often in California, so I'm always thankful when we do. And here is the final result. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below. And a huge thank you to all of my supporters on Patreon. You guys are seriously the best, and I appreciate you so, so much. And if you like my art, if you like my videos, and you want to help me make more, then check out my Patreon in the link below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!